This video we will be updating our baseline script to make it a little more useful. So what do I mean by a little more useful? Well, if we look at what we have for our script at this point, basically we're creating a file that has a bunch of stuff in there. So if we look at the contents of one of those files, 47. If we look at the contents of one of those files, we can look and see in here, what the results were of our output, but it's hard to tell what changed. If we look at this file, we see some stuff, and then if we look at this next file, right, there's still a lot of stuff in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to change things up a bit so it's easier to compare the two files. Now before we do that, we could always use something like diff to compare the two files. So if we do this, let's see what the output looks like. Right, we run the diff command and we see that there are differences in the files, but there's still a lot of stuff in here. So we're going to change up what we're outputting to clean things up so that we can more easily detect any differences in the file. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this original file still. We're also going to create a new file that's going to have less output in it and more specific output in it. We want to have the original file because we'll have all the details we need if we go back to look at things, but we're going to have the new file to make things compare more easily. And one of the reasons we're going to do that is because some things happen that we don't necessarily care about that might affect the way our file looks. So let's do a little quick example. If we run let's see if if the web server is running. Service status. So it's not running, so I'll go ahead and start the web server. Right, so the web server is running. Let's run the script. All right, we ran the script. We have to wait a few minutes due to my poor timing. We're going to add seconds to this also, so we can run the script multiple times in the same minute. But if we ran it again now, it would overwrite this file, so we have to wait till 59. But we're going to do something else. We're going to stop the web server, and then we're going to start the web server. So basically the state of the server has not changed. We stopped and started the web server. The web server is still running. The web server is supposed to be running, so maybe I don't care that the web server was stopped, right? This is something you have to decide on your own, whether you care if the web server is stopped and started or not. But in my view, stopping and starting the web server is not a big deal. But if we do this and then we compare the two baseline files we had, we have 59 and 58. We compare the two baseline files we have, we get a lot of output, even though there's not really anything that had changed. And the reason we get that is we have these different process IDs. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of the commands we're putting in our baseline, and we're going to try to clean up the output so that we only get enough of what we need in order to detect the change more easily and more quickly. So I know how much you guys hate watching me write scripts, some of you anyway. So I've already started a new script called baseline-detect.sh. So I started this so we could talk about what we need to talk about more quickly. First thing I did, I put %S on the time, so I'd have a different file name for each second, so I could run the file, run the script more than once a minute without overriding the output. Second thing I did, I created well, I didn't do that. I created a new file called detect_filename, and what this does is it creates a extra file that we're going to put our clean output in. So if you look down here, I have the same commands twice, and then I output it once into file name and once into detect file name. So we're going to manipulate most of the output that goes into the detect file name. Also, LSOF. In the other video, I couldn't figure out how to get the port numbers to go, port names to go away to show me numbers, so I figured that out. -N will show me IP addresses instead of names, and -P will show me port numbers. So basically, I've copied all these commands we had in our original script twice, and I'm also putting them in detect file name. And I've done some other stuff too that we'll talk about in a little while. So first thing I'm going to do is talk about those other things. So I've also updated my file to automatically compare the two files and see if the baseline's changed. So in this case, baseline is not changed. If there's nothing in the diff output, if there's something in the diff output, it's going to tell me baseline changed. And I do that up here based on this old detect file name. So I run the command ls-rt/temp/detect_baseline star. So that's going to show me all those files. Why don't I log in again? Alright, so I logged in again so we can look at some of the things. So basically I have ls-rt. So ls, oh, I didn't run that script yet. So basically ls is going to show me the output. I want the most recent file. In this case, doing it by name would have worked, but -rt shows me reverse sorted by time. So that's going to give me the most recent one, guaranteed, even though file name would have showed us that in this case. So let's go ahead and run this new script once to see what happens. It ran. We tried to use a diff, and it didn't have the previous file, so it showed us everything was different. Oh, I did have some old files in there. I thought I deleted all those old files. So it showed me what changed between my new file and my old file. If we look, I had some process listening on this port that's no longer listening, and I had Apache showing up because it's Apache showing up because I restarted it. So what we want to do is we want to modify our script to get more precise information, so we don't get this false positive type information. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of these commands and see how we need to clean it up to get us what we want. So we'll start with netstat. So in this case, we have the port number, we have the receive queue, send queue, we have the local address, and we have the state. So all we really want out of here is the protocol and the local address. So we're going to try to use awk to get that. I'm going to try to use awk to get that because awk is what I like to use when I'm doing this. So I want $1 print $1, and this will be 1, 2, 3, 4 $4. So that's what I got there. I don't really like having this header information, so we'll look at the netstat page, netstat man page, to see if I can suppress the header. And I don't see it anywhere, so we'll just leave the header because I don't feel like spending forever looking for this. Alright, so we'll just leave the header, so that's fine. So this is going to be our command for netstat for our script, so I'll copy that. Alright, we'll look at the next command. See how we need to clean it up. LSOF shows us open files. We're looking for TCP. So here we have some issues. We have this field, whatever that is, I don't even know, which we don't care about. This is going to possibly change. These are going to change. So what we're going to get out of here is we're going to get the first field, the third field, the fourth field. Wait, one. Oh, why don't I start writing the command? Pipe into awk print $1. When I'm doing this double quote, space quote, that's putting a literal space in there. $3, the third field, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we want $5. 6, 7, we'll get 8 and 9. $8, $9. So we'll print that. And if we look at this, we see we have a bunch of duplicate rows. So we'll go ahead and clean that up some by piping that through sort, and then unique. So this gives us a more concise list of exactly which processes are listening on which ports. So that's going to be our command for LSOF for our detect file. Already had the pipe. All right. So we'll go to the next thing we're going to do, which is UDP, LOSF for UDP. So we just had UDP. And this looks similar to what we had for TCP. So we'll just go ahead and put the same command on there and see if that gives us what we want. At this point, you may not have anything show up for UDP if you don't have any UDP processes running, which you probably don't at this point. So you'll probably get no output for this. So I'm going to go put my same awk command on there. All right. Next we have ps-ef. I'd already cleaned this up a little bit for us in the other podcast, but there's some issues with what we're doing. So one of the issues is we don't get all the stuff we need based on the way I detected this. Another issue is once you kill something and start it back up, then you end up with things in a different order. So a couple things we're going to do. We're going to stop using this full listing. We're going to go to ps-e, right? And now we're just going to print the last field. So we can do that with awk. Pipe into awk print. I'm pretty sure $nf is a special thing that means print the last field. So let's see if that works. Yeah. So that's going to tell us the processes that are running. So here we have a similar issue. We have multiple processes with the same name. So we want to clean this up to where we only have the unique listing of names. So we pipe it into sort and then pipe that into unique. And this is going to give us the list of each process that's showing up in the PS output. So we'll go with that. And if you're on an actual server that people are using, this might end up giving you some false positives depending on how busy the server is and how much things change. So you probably just want to be aware of that. So we'll get rid of this stuff. Actually, we'll put in my new line, and then we'll get rid of this stuff. All right, so that's going to be our new PS output. I'm still going to use the EF in the other file. Changing the password file, catting the password file is good still. If a new user shows up, we'll be able to detect that. SSHD config changes, that's good. IP tables, let's see what the output of that looks like, see if we need to clean that up a little bit. So this is just the contents of the file that has the firewall rules in it, so that's fine. And then we have this command to look at the actual running firewall, because maybe the firewall is not running, even though the file is correct, maybe it's not running. In this case, it's not running, so I'll start it. So we can look at the output. And this format is good. We just have the actual rules. If we did the -v, then we have these numbers that might change. It would cause us problems. So that command's fine too. So now, if we run our script, we'll create this detect file, and then we have this thing down here that says, hey, I'm going to compare what's in the current detect file to what's in the old detect file. So since I changed the file, first thing I'm going to do is since I changed the script, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the old detect files, because the first time it's not going to work because the script's going to be a mess. So now we'll run the script. And then, unsurprisingly, we got a error on line 9. Oh wait, that is surprising. We got an error on line 9. I was expecting a different error because I have an extra pipe in here. So let's see, does that look good for everywhere else? Yeah. So now let's all right, so let's run it again this time. It should work. All right, so it worked except for the fact that diff didn't work because we only have one file. So that might be something you want to modify your script to detect if the file already exists or not. So we go look at our file. Now we have our cleaner file with just the processes, just the specific things that are listening. So it's a cleaner file. So it makes it better for comparison. So now let's go run it again. And now it should actually do the comparison. It says, hey, baseline has not changed. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this was because when we stopped the service and then restarted it, I determined in my environment I don't care that it was restarted. So that caused a problem with our script, and if this works the way I hope it will, now it's still going to say baseline has not changed. So baseline has not changed. So even though I stopped and started the script, even though I stopped and started the web server, if we compared our old files, remember I had this temp baseline file, the original file. If we compare the original file, and that was 10, 13, 18, 10, 12. What am I looking for? 10, 12, 49. 12, 49. So even though I just stopped and started the web server, my old file put all this output, but my new way of doing it does not put that output, which is exactly what I wanted. So it makes it cleaner when things haven't changed. But if we stop the web server and run it again, now it detects, hey, these things were in the one file, but they're not in the other file. So if I started back, the very next time we run it, it'll say, hey, these things are in the one file, but not the other file. And then if we run it again, it's going to say baseline has not changed. So that's the changes we're making this week to the script. You don't have to create a new script. You can just edit your old script. We're going to create a new, we're going to add seconds to the time. We're going to put a detect file. We're going to create a detect file. We're going to record the name of the old detect file. We're going to copy these commands and modify them for our detect file so that we get output that's cleaner and easier to compare. So that's what we're going to be doing this week. So pretty much, in theory, if you made your script work last week, you should have no trouble copying these new changes into your script to make it work this week.